Welcome, friends, to episode number 9. This is Bob Hutchins here with Agency Expose. As always, to my right is Mr. Ken Ott, and right next to him is Mr. Brad Ayers.
Hey. Oh, love the sound effects.
Awesome.
We upgraded. Do we have a studio audience today?
We do.
Oh,
we
do
have a studio audience.
It's Friday, so I'm excited about that.
Well, how are you guys doing?
We might want to mention that there's a lot of construction noise outside.
Okay, everyone, there's a lot of construction noise outside.
I'm looking at a big pile of dirt.
Yes. So if you hear knockings and weird sounds, that's okay because we have progress going on around us. So that's what that sound is. So guys, last time we talked about personalities and how that influences our businesses. And one of the things that has come up a few times, even with our conversation with Hannah, is her discussing of how and why you get into a business. What's your personality type for sustaining that business? And Ken, you brought up the point of, people fall into agency work, service work in general. You find one day you've got a client that you're serving and you're a contractor, and then another one comes along and you get more and more work and you have to hire someone to execute the work. And before you know it, you've got 5 clients and 4 people working with you or for you.
I feel like that happens more often in agency work than maybe any other business. It doesn't happen to everybody, but you don't, whether you're starting, if you're a plumber, you're not going to fall into being a plumber. If you're, building a company from scratch with funding, you're not going to fall into that. With this service business, you kind of can typically fall into that role. Maybe you're searching for freedom first, but then you end up owning a company.
I think a lot of it is kind of falling in love with the craft or as a practitioner, of actually doing this stuff. The work itself is exciting, especially early on in the career, and if you're good at it, right, you grow because people want your services, and then you're only one person, and then you get to the point where you have to duplicate yourself or try to duplicate yourself, which is impossible to duplicate a business owner, but you try to, and you don't want to say no, right? Typically to other growth projects. So, or there's other projects that are exciting to you, and so you decide that you want to continue to do that. And next thing you know, you're incorporating, and you have a business, and you have to. And then you have to figure things out, where you want to be, how big you want to be, where you want to go. There's a lot more decisions to be made if you go into business that way.
Yeah.
And I think for the purpose of today, let's talk about that and try to unpack the reasonings behind it, but also the motivations, because I think a lot of people are listening, or I know our own discussions and our own colleagues that we talk with, is how do you scale a business? Why do you scale a business? And the big question is, should you scale a business? I think that's the big question. I think there's a default understanding of, okay, got my business, I'm going to compete, I'm going to grow it, I'm going to be the biggest and the best. That is the default, maybe misnomer or understanding of what you should be doing. So just from personal experience, we were talking before we started push recording. For me, when I ran an agency, I always knew, I guess to some degree, my limitations, whether that was good or bad. And I always knew my motivation, which my business, which I loved, was for the purpose of funding the things that I really loved, which is family, hobbies, etc. So my thought process was always, I want to be a boutique agency. I don't want to have 10 offices around the country. I don't even want to have 2 offices. I want to have a certain number of people that get the job done, that I can pay well, I can make a decent salary, and I can live the life that I choose to live. Now, right or wrong, that was kind of my trajectory of where I wanted to go. Now, did I have dreams of maybe selling it one day and retiring on an island? Sure, but it was never a goal or intention, and so therefore that's not what happened. And maybe that was a fault of mine. However, my motivation was always to be a thought leader in a space, to serve my clients well, and to fund what was most important to me. So That's my personal experience.
I think that's really cool because in order to do that, I think that sounds to me like a rarer level of self-awareness and confidence in, hey, here's my purpose, here's what I want to do, and here's how I'm going to do it. Which is the healthy way to grow a business or actually your life typically, is to say, I believe, like we talk about this all the time, like you need to understand why you're doing this thing and do some soul searching as to why you're doing this, because the reason behind why you're doing it is actually going to be what pulls you into or through what is going to be a lot of challenges, because growing a business is extremely hard. And I feel like the social media or just our culture does a disservice to some extent, because it's great, but it's only great if that's how you're built, and also you have a reason behind it. It's not great for everybody, but there's this kind of idea in our culture that entrepreneurship and massive influence is the goal that everyone should have, and it's idealized. And we kind of can start to think that, hey, the grass is always greener, whether you don't own a business and you maybe you think you should, or you do and it should be bigger. We always think that the grass is always greener if I can grow it to a certain extent, or on the other side of what I'm not doing. And the truth is, I don't think that. That's just factually not true, right? There's really significant challenges with doing all those things, with growing, with scaling, with whatever you do. And so I think the intention is important. The reason why you do that is super important.
It's funny because if you start a business when you're young, right, our lives change, and for instance, you might get married, you might have kids, and then all of a sudden your responsibilities and your expenses go up. So part of growth of a business is, just being able to support your family, because that costs more money as typically for people. And so I think a lot of, if I look back at my past of starting a business, Bob, I don't know if I had the same awareness that you had. I'm kind of like, hey, anything's possible, kind of,
Sure.
And maybe that's just a lack of understanding a little bit more. And I've gotten to the point where I've understood myself a little more, only because I've had to put myself through challenges that have really stretched me. But I think early on, for me personally, I didn't have like a 5-year exit goal. Like I wasn't like, okay, 5 years, I'm going to build this company, this much billings, and I'm going to exit out, and I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to keep on the track. And
but we know guys or people, men and women who start businesses,
and I think that's
like that.
That's a good goal. It's very purposeful and it's very driven, and understanding that, I think is really good. I think that the key is that it is a good thing to understand what you want from your business, right? If you don't know what you want, then you're hitting a target that you're not defined. And I found myself over my career just kind of waffling in that area a little bit, like, what really do I want from this? What I thought I wanted now has changed, because my life has changed, and I've gotten older and some more experience, and dynamics change in your life. And so, and it's okay to be flexible and pivot. I think it's just a matter of what exactly your company business should serve you and serve other people that you care about in your business, your employees, and other things too. So, I think defining it is really good early on. But I also have to think the more you know about yourself, the more self-awareness where you are of yourself, then you understand your own how you could work and what it could give you.
Do you guys feel like it's a necessary practice to know for sure, or is there room for evolution in that? Because I think the human element of it is we do grow and change. And if you start a business like Hannah was mentioning, in her early 40s versus starting a business in your early 30s, you're at a different life place. Your values and even your lens on life grows and evolves. Because you may start an agency and have dreams of building it and growing it and have, multiple offices in LA and New York, and then selling it for $500 million. But then you wake up one day and you're like, I don't want to do that. It's not worth it to give up so much I have to give up to do that.
One of the things that I've learned is that I used to think that building a company was dreamy and there was so much, it was easier than it really is. But there's a lot of casualty that happens in your life when you grow a company, and you have to make decisions of where you're going to give your time, and something else in your life you're going to have to forego. And that's, I think, the challenge sometimes is that I think a lot of young business owners that are starting businesses may not know as you grow what it will take to actually grow the company and things that you will have to forego in life. We all want to do everything, right? We all want to do it all, but the reality is that's just not human. It's not possible. Maybe for some people it's more possible, and other people maybe not. But
I think to that point,
that's one of my struggles. Is like I have to choose.
Well, we're all made up differently, right? That's we talked about that in the last episode: personality types and sort of self-awareness and understanding what gives you energy, what takes it away. That's really key because not everyone. People are. You should do you, right? You should know what you're made best to do and what your talent is, and kind of be comfortable in that, and then try and operate within that. That may be leading something, ownership or not. Like that may be leading something. That may be supporting something. That may be, it can be all these different roles, and all those roles are really important. And I feel like our culture puts certain types on pedestals that are like 100% inaccurate, because you need that whole complement to make a successful thing, right? And you're made up a certain way, and this scary thing is when people end up in leadership roles that are not even aware that they're in a leadership role, and they don't want to be, and they're not equipped to be, and that's when you get really challenging companies, organizations. You get hurt people underneath those organizations. When I started out, I was not necessarily a great aware. What am I trying to say? A leader that was aware of what I'm actually in, and of my responsibilities. But it was something that and I'm not sure that I'm great at it right now, but it was something that I was made aware that I need to be really good at if I'm going to do this. And so it became like a lifelong drive of mine to try and do that. And I genuinely enjoy that. Some people don't, and that's okay. Or you may, because you're probably really great and enjoy something else.
I believe leadership skills can be developed.
100%.
Like that's not a hardwired, I'm just not a born leader.
Absolutely.
I think some people obviously are much better leaders than others, but the skills of leadership can be learned.
And I agree with you, Ken, is that the leadership, I agree with both of you guys, that leadership can be learned, but I think it has to be very intentionally learned. Like you have to do whatever it takes to learn. They say the best leaders, they're spending 25% of their time learning, right? And growing in themselves versus actually doing. And I think that's keys, because as a leader, you have to make decisions every single day that will affect your business. And, we all do this, right? We have to make a good decision. Sometimes both decisions are not good. So you have to choose one or the other, and you have to make the best decision sometimes. And sometimes it's just, the more you can learn, the more you absorb, the more you do things like what we're doing here, just discussing it and understanding different perspectives and lenses, I think can help you grow. But you got to be intentional about it.
I think one of the scariest, most dangerous things are businesses or people trying to do things that they just shouldn't be doing. I'm not saying you shouldn't grow, but like intentionally doing something for the sake of following what you believe is the trend that you're supposed to be following. That's really dangerous, and when it comes to business, that's really dangerous. Because
give us an example of that.
Well, I talk to, I don't necessarily come from the agency world, and I admittedly think about things slightly differently, better or for worse. But I get to talk to a lot of agency owners just in my travels and kind of like what I do. And more often than not, I'll ask what's your goal, next year? And usually it's like an increase of headcount. Like now I'm
Right.
I'm just being dumb, but like it's like saying like my goal, my life goal is to like increase my heat bill by like 2 times, or something like that.
Well,
like
part of
why
it- yeah.
that's not really a goal. I mean, I see where they're going. Like clearly they're not just trying to increase costs and that kind of thing, but like
Headcount equals billing.
head count is like a status symbol.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And we see that even with, sometimes you can get into that challenge with potential clients, right? It's like, oh, we got to look like we're giant. Well, if you really break that down into like a logical, common sense approach, it's like more people doesn't mean better work.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything else. And so I think one of the things you could fall into is feeling like you have to do that because everyone else does it.
Yeah.
And that becomes really dangerous, I think. And ultimately, I get to see, and I'll get off my pedestal, but like I see, I work with companies of all sizes. And sometimes there are, people doing $50 million a year and their profit margin or their net profit in the year is, under 5%. And then you have, much smaller organizations that have really healthy systems, processes, and net profits. And again, it's not all about net profits, but that is a indication of health. And I just, often what culture idolizes is actually the wrong thing to kind of judge yourself by, and that is the challenge. And I think that applies to business ownership.
In my business, I've noticed that our business has made less money, and we've been way more profitable. I just know that as we have grown, it's been more challenging to be profitable.
Growth takes money. I think that's important to note, right? Like you're not going to make more as you grow, which is part of the reason why I don't mean to cut you off, but part of the reason why you need to like know why you're going to do it, because you can't do it because you think you're going to make more money necessarily, because actually you make less money typically as you kind of scale up.
Yeah.
Right? Finish what you're saying.
No, yeah, it's been, so that's been challenging. So as soon as you grow, you take on different HR, different personalities, a lot more people with different approaches, and it becomes a lot harder to really wrangle in teams and to keep your office culture, which I think is always a challenge. So there's a lot of issues with growth that have nothing to do, that actually counter revenue, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, it's like you have to understand that. Like, and we were talking about this earlier, Ken, offline here, but we're talking about like when you ask somebody, "Hey, how's your business going?" And you never hear someone says, "Well, it's status quo. Like we're not growing. We're just staying the same." Like everyone, wants to talk about, "Yeah, we're doing well, and we're growing, and we're getting new clients, and blah blah blah." And I'm like, that's maybe not a good thing. And why is it in our culture that is the right thing to do? Like, why isn't the right thing to do is just stay steady, produce great products, make great profit, and have your company serve you, even if it's small?
Well, I think there's always has to be, we feel like there has to be a metric of positive growth, right? So that, like you said, the metric is, it's funny in every subculture and channel has their own metric, right? Growing up in church life, it's like, well, how many people are coming? How many members do you have? So that's a metric of success, not, hey, how many people are we helping and how many people leave each week feeling a lot better about their life and their circumstances. It's how many people are there. So, in the agency world and, I'm sure in the lawyer world, they're like, how many billable clients did you increase this, X amount, or how many cases did you win? And so I think that's human nature. So I don't think we should be saying there's a negative side of it, like we should just settle for mediocrity. But I do think what we're trying to get at in this episode is, what is your motivation? And you've got to determine it, A, for even having the business, and B, what are you going to do with it? And you've got to settle that in your mind. That doesn't mean it's not going to evolve and change, because that will trickle down on the culture in your office, and that they will believe and support and engage with what you see as most important. And that could be ultimately a very destructive thing if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Just to kind of hammer that home, right? Like, we're not saying that those metrics are not important.
No.
They're 100% important.
Sure.
Because
but they're not
they're
always
the
the most
scoreboard.
important.
You have to figure out what the important metrics are, but then that becomes a scoreboard. But before that, you have to know why you're doing what you're doing and then where you're trying to go. And then you can set the scoreboard up.
Right.
A lot of people do it completely backwards. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid here.
And I think what we're hitting at and touching on is when you do decide that, you've got to be willing to know that that's not the same metric for other people out there. And it may be contrary to what other people out there. Are you willing to live and go in what's best for you? Because like you said, you get around these conferences and everyone's kind of puffing their chest out of, well, I've got 50 staff. I've got 150 over 2 offices. I've got 300 people now working for me in 3 offices. And do you have the guts to say, I've got 15 people working for me in 1 office and I am really happy and we're pumping out great work?
I think, this makes me really question my own motives of growth. And I've definitely been on a slower path of growth where it's a consistent path of growth, but it's something that we can self-capitalize, because growth does take capitalization for sure. And it takes money to grow. And it may take a lot more money than you're making as far as profits every year to grow the next year. So you have to look out for how do you capitalize your growth at the rate you want to grow. But I do say that this makes me take a good look at, really why I want to grow. And I think a lot of the reasons that I want to grow is, and it really depends on each person's business, but there's always this fear of mine in business that for some reason, and it's not a realistic fear, but it's a realization that it happens, is that a client may leave for maybe even reasons that have nothing to do with you and your business, right? And so you always want to make sure that you can support your staff, and support any losses in your business, so that you don't lose good resources, people that you've trained up and that are working well with your company and that understand the ropes and are part of your awesome culture. And because that takes so much time and energy to build, right? I mean, our businesses run on people. And people take a long time to grow and to build into your business. And so there's a fear of mine that is always like, I need to always have this new business mentality. Otherwise, if another client leaves on the back door, then I've got to have something queued up, ready to roll.
Well, also, but there's maybe an important distinction. Tell me if you agree with this, but you need to have a healthy business no matter what, right? And that could be any size, but it needs to be healthy inside of that size. That's maybe slightly different than the other thing, which is you also, I believe, need to innovate as a business, because everything changes and you will die if you don't innovate.
Yep.
And these are requirements, and that's why maybe not everyone is meant to lead a business, because you have to do these things. And then you have the choice of, what are the goals of the business? That could be size, that could be those kind of things. And that's where those kind of come into, because, which is like, should I be scaling? Should I double? Should I triple? Should I hit this mark? Is that really what our business should do? And that's almost like you cannot scale and still be innovating and still be healthy. If that, right?
And I think, every business is different. We have clients that have been with us for years, 10 years, and we provided a great service for them, and we take care of them, and their loyalty to us is strong. And I think that's great. So there's certain clients we can just depend on that hopefully they'll be there and that we can continue to service. But there's some businesses and agencies, they just have a lot of clients that come and go. And maybe the type of service they provide is just a short-term service too. And so there's some differences in the way that even agencies run. So I think as you look at your growth, you tailor it based on your own agency, right? And then on top of that, it's, you have to really understand, like for us, for instance, we have larger clients and smaller clients, and our part of our growth process is we don't want so many clients to own so much of our business, right? Because we have some bigger clients that if something happened, then that would be a little more detrimental to our agency. So I think it's also trying to even out your client base, your portfolio clients, to make sure that they're more evened out as far as how many clients you have and stuff. So we're always kind of looking at that and trying to scale down some clients because and raise up other clients so that our portfolio clients are more even. And I think that's a priority for us. And so our growth process is to do that as well. So there's just a lot of moving parts in the business and growth. And so again, there's many reasons to want to scale your business, and there's many reasons just to keep it status quo.
Right.
Do you guys feel like it's a value to bring in someone to help you really understand that? Because I think this conversation, while it sounds on the surface kind of off the cuff and hypothetical, I think it's very core to really determining if you're going to survive as a business and what you're going to be like in a few years. Because I think it's so easy. I'm a huge fan of bringing in outside third-party sources, because even when you build your own website, even when you do your own marketing, even because you get so ingrained and it becomes your culture that you stop seeing things. I remember coming over to your office and yours too, Ken, but having a conversation with one of your staff, and them saying, "Oh, we don't do anything interesting. It's boring. No one wants to see this stuff." And it wasn't a negative thing. It was just he was just saying, "Well, this is what I do every day, and I don't feel like there's anything like we're talking about social media and like
it wasn't as exciting
story
anymore to him."
And I'm like, "Are you kidding? You guys work on some really cool projects, and the stuff that you do every day is really interesting to me, and I'm sure it's interesting to other people." So having that outside third party to see it. So I guess my question where I'm going with this is: do you feel like it's important as a business owner, even as your whole team, as a staff, from time to time, to bring out outside sources to really think through and talk through, like, how healthy is our business culturally, financially, fiscally, the type of clients, the number of clients, where are we going? What's our goals for the next year? Do you feel like it's important to have outside sources on that?
In my experience, it's the most important thing. I mean, I think you hit on something. I mean, just in my personal experience, the big trajectory changes or mindset shifts in how I think about life and business have come from outside people that I trust, mentorship, advisors, and those kind of things. And I would say, practically speaking, like just in our business story, it's probably 5 years ago. But one of the big shifts in our trajectory was I hired a friend of mine who was a very accomplished CFO in a big company, and he went on his own. He was just doing CFO consulting for a while, and he came in, and he was sort of a fractional CFO, and he started looking at things, and he started asking questions, and the questions I had never thought of before. Everything from, how are your projects profitable? Like, how do you know that? Are you tracking your time? Are you organized? Like, how are you categorizing expenses? Like all it's like obviously all financial accounting stuff, but that kind of led us to be like, okay, look, there are actually some flaws in how all the accepted ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And we have to change that. And so, and my personality is one that I'm like, if everyone's not doing it, we really should do that. Yeah. And so it was a very different way of operating in the sort of service industry, agency world, but it was the way the rest of the world operated, a lot of times. And so that was one of our big shifts, and it came from, a financial advisor. To date, I have personally a lot of mentors, advisors, and we often hire in consultants sometimes to do things that we should know how to do. That, but we're so close to our business that we need an outside eye and perspective. And you know what they'll do on this, and I'll just end this on this, is they'll. I really think this is an important point, because if you're either owning or leading or thinking about it, and depending on, you may be in a giant 3-letter agency, you might be just starting out. You need some, like, those advisors give you, I believe, confidence to be you. Like the ones that are really trusted. Like, most people need to know, hey, maybe they need a little like outside perspective on, hey, here's what I'm seeing, like, that you're really good at. You may not realize that. Yeah. And
I was going to ask you, do you have an advisory board for your company?
We don't, but it's something that we plan on doing. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. So
I mean, not an official one. We have sort of probably an unofficial one,
yeah,
but not an official advisory board.
Isn't that what this is right here?
Yes.
Yeah, this isn't it?
I thought this is a support group.
Did you guys send me your invoices yet?
Yeah. Yes. But I'll just say that for us, that was, and for me, that's been a big part, because it gives you the confidence to be you. And I think a big part of what we're talking about here is, don't just do something because you feel you have to do it. Someone once told me comparison is the enemy of joy. And that's so true in life and in business. And, if you're leading a business, you might see the other business and they look so cool from the outside and all that kind of stuff. And that's actually the reason why we have this podcast. Is turns out they all struggle with the same things. Right. They're not cool, and they've got all the same problems, and maybe bigger problems. So don't just do it because you see it and you think you should do it. Outside advice for me has given me confidence to be who we were made to be and do it really well.
That's good. That's good. I think finding the uniqueness of your own individuality and your own agency, and collectively who you are as a team, is so important.
Yeah.
Because you try to be another agency, or try to imitate, and you can learn and take best practices. However, Ken, you're always saying, you're quoting, I don't know who it is, but you can be the cheapest, the only, or the best. Choose which one you want to be, because those are the only one of 3 ways you're going to scale and grow and be successful as a business. So which one are you? You as an agency, you as a team, you're going to be the cheapest. Nothing wrong with that. That's what you choose to do. You can be the best at a certain thing or a certain number of things, or you can be the only one who does it.
Or you could be out of business.
That's the other option.
Going back to your, having some other stakeholders come in from outsiders with different lenses. Early on in my career, I worked at some larger companies, and that afforded me to be around really great people that I could learn from and grow from. And you had mentors there, and you had people speaking into you, and you're early in my career. But when you start a business, all of a sudden you're on an island and you're alone. And so I think, in my early career, I didn't really know sometimes who to bring in, or I didn't really even have the guts to ask people to give me even their free time to kind of talk through some things with me. I was always afraid of, like, oh, maybe I'm wasting their time, or maybe they're going to think that I'm not good enough, or I'm not, I need help, right? And as business owners, I think that's the biggest deal, is that when you first start out, you're almost a little afraid sometimes to ask for help, because you want to feel like, okay, I want people to be confident in what I'm doing. But the reality is, once you start to learn a little bit more, we all need help, right? We all need those mentors. One of the things that I'm looking at doing is to develop an advisory board, and I think that can speak into my business. I would love to, talking about business growth, if you're looking to grow your business, I think you need to find some key people who have actually grown and scaled businesses that can speak into you, because I think that experience alone, they can tell you and help you to foresee issues that might be pitfalls that you can't see yourself. So I think, finding these mentors, even if they're friends, having coffee with them, asking them questions, having them look at your, even your books or your balance sheet and kind of your strategy, even top level stuff initially. But even if they're willing, you have to pay someone to come in and really dive in deeper. I think it's been valuable when I've done it, and I would love to do it more often, than I do. But it's always been super valuable, and I think it's part of the growth that you have to be mature enough to go, I need help, and I need a team, I need a tribe that's going to help me do this, and it's not going to be from my own core team.
No, and that's a big takeaway. And I would say if anyone's listening to this and they're like, yes, we need that, but I have no idea where to start, maybe they can reach out to us, because we can. I mean, I know I've been through a lot of different ones. I have a lot of friends and connections in that area, and we'll be happy to connect. But I think that's so important to making the right decisions, and it can be a big mental barrier to get over, to do it the first time, right?
Yeah.
To ask someone, hey, would you mind, like, if we met just once a week or once a month for coffee, and I was able to bounce things off you. That can be a hard barrier to sort of jump over for the first time, but it's so crucial.
That's really good. That's really good. Ken, one of the things that you've mentioned a couple of times as we're working on this discussion is this whole idea of, should you even start a business? Should you even start an agency? Let's talk about that. Like, how do you know? Like, sometimes you're thrust into it, like we've said. Sometimes you're just like, oh, this is great. I'm making good money, and I've got, an extra person helping me, and I've got 2 or 3 clients. Like, how do you know when to, like, put the brakes on, or when to, this is part of the self-awareness discussion. I guess it continues to some degree, but have you thought through that a little bit? I mean, I know you've seen a lot, you travel a lot, talk to other kind of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and then also obviously big agency owners.
I was wondering, I was thinking, like, what could the title of this episode be? I was like, should you scale, should you stay, or should you stop?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Stop.
Like, and that's not a bad thing. Again, like, I think being self-aware and confident enough, to be like, hey, here's where I'm best. Like, maybe I should be scaling this. Maybe we should be staying approximately where we are, or maybe this is not for me.
Ken, would you do it over again?
Would I do it over again?
Yeah, I mean, that's the
would.
question. Like, would you, if you know what you know now, would this be the right type of business to start? And would you?
Depends on what day you ask me.
Yeah, me too.
What time of the day?
What time of the day? But
yesterday, no. Today, yes.
For me personally, I would definitely. I don't know. I mean, I could probably soul search and lay down on the couch here and maybe think about talk, but I'm sure there are reasons. But like, for me personally, I'm made up to do something, to lead something, and part of my driver is I believe that I just have this this even more than specific, just this abstract feeling that I should be maximizing the talents, whatever talents I'm given, the few, maybe the none, but I should be doing the most with that, and that drives me. I'm excited by that. I don't get up being like, oh man, I got to chase this potential again today. I'm like, I get up excited about that. I'm not saying I get excited about every single day what I have to do, but because there are always challenges and they're really hard things, and there are times when you're just like, I think I just stop or it's going to collapse. I mean, that's true with everybody, but for me overall, like I enjoy the pursuit of that, and that's me.
Do you think that some people, though they might have a desire to start a business, probably shouldn't? Or do you think that anyone, as long as the desire is there and the fire is there, can learn how to?
I believe that some people like the idea of starting a business more than they might actually like starting a business.
Yeah.
It's like, right now my kids want a dog, and I think they like the idea of having a dog, but they might not actually like owning a dog every day.
Yes,
so it's very different.
They will say they will take care of it fully, and in the end, Ken, you will be the one taking care of that dog.
No, I mean, if
the romantic idea.
Yes.
That
if
we
you
love.
think about that, it's like, hey, oh man, I would love to be on the cover of Forbes someday. Like that's gonna be cool when I'm on there, and like, top 40 under 40, top 30 under 30, like all that kind of stuff. They like the idea of it, but like the truth is, to achieve that, if that is really a noble goal that you think you should achieve, that's going to be, I mean, that's hard. I mean, there's going to be so much challenge. Elon Musk, and I don't necessarily subscribe to this, but I would say there are times when it feels this way. Elon Musk describes entrepreneurship as getting up and eating glass every day, right? I'm just saying that's what he does, right? Have you heard that? Anyway,
that's good.
Now I don't that sounds horrible, and I don't know if he truly feels that way, but assume that there's going to be a lot of challenges in your way, and it's going to be painful. It's actually going to take your investment. You need to really be in the belief that this is what you're supposed to do, and it's okay if you don't have that, because that's okay. Like, the world needs all those different people.
I heard a great example of something similar to this. There's been a big movement in the past, 10, 15 years to just like fake it till you make it, visualize it, The Secret, and manifest it. And all those things are great. This whole idea of visualizing success for Olympic athletes and things like that, football players, they visualize themselves winning the Super Bowl. They visualize the high jumper jumping over that, a certain height. And they see themselves doing it over and over. And so if that was the key to their success, was just visualizing it, that would be one thing. And I think if you take that metaphor into what we're talking about, people think, oh, you just get clients and you hire some smart people and it's going to be a blast and I'm going to make a ton of money and be on the cover of Forbes. Visualization and dreaming about it is extremely healthy to that athlete. However, he also works out 10 hours a day. Yeah. He's also at 2-a-day practices getting hit, practicing with the football team. They go home, they bathe in ice baths because their muscles are so sore that they got to reduce the inflammation. But at the end of the day, they might make it to that Super Bowl, and the payoff is huge, and they might be in the NFL Hall of Fame, but none of them would ever say it was easy and it was a breeze and it was a walk in the cakewalk, and there wasn't days that I said, what am I doing to myself?
Cakewalk in the park?
Yeah, cakewalk in the park.
I'm going to get this stat wrong, I'm sure, but I think Michael Jordan in the off season would shoot something like 2,000 jump shots a day in the off season. Most people would be like, you're Michael Jordan. Like, why do you need to practice at all? Yeah. Like, it turns out, like, the reason you're Michael Jordan is because you've conditioned so hard and you continue to condition so hard so that when you get on the field, when you get on the court, you don't have to think about it. It comes naturally and you can perform while you're being opposed. I think business ownership, or really doing anything at an excellent level, just being a great husband, wife, whatever, father, mother, etc., like, takes intentional conditioning over time. And the truth is, it's hard work. And if you don't want, don't get into business or don't get into leading any business if you're not wanting to do hard work. Someone told me once that they started a business so that they would have more free time, and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm sorry.
Like the 4-hour
work
week. We are all striving for. One of the things too is you got to take into consideration is that starting a business, there's other people that are involved in that decision. So when you decide to scale your business, if you have a family, that's going to take a toll. And so your spouse, or your partners, or any other people that are in your life long term, they have to understand and almost be bought into that idea as well, and
support
it. Because if you don't have that support around you, it can be really difficult with your relationships. And I think most of us, at least me personally, my family is way more important than my business, obviously. Yeah. And so your priority of what's important in your life, first of all, has to be there. And then number two, are those people that are important, how are they supporting you in your decision, knowing that there's going to be really hard times. You're going to be eating glass every day, right? And
some days.
And there's just a lot, because I know with business, it's very stressful, and I personally bring that stress home sometimes. And my wife sometimes, she absorbs it, but she can't do anything about it sometimes. And I'm just venting sometimes. I'm just letting it, because I'm a kind of an audio processor. But I also have to know that there's a lot of challenges and just a lot of stuff that goes on to it. And everyone that's in your life has to be kind of ready for it a little bit, because it does. And financially, it's up and down, right? Because if your business doesn't do well one year, typically it's the business owner that's going to probably take the hit, right?
Right.
For the most part. And so your income sways a lot too, and your family has to be prepared for that.
And to me, everything you're saying goes back to okay, why are you doing it? If you don't know why you're doing it, then all that stuff sounds insane. Why would you go through that?
Yeah.
Right. And ultimately, your business, again, whatever size it is, it's meant to serve 2 or 3 groups of people. It needs to serve your clients really well, but even more importantly, it needs to serve the people that work for you.
Yes.
Right. And it's funny because that's often forgotten about. Like, you think about corporate America and that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of toxicity, and it's like the people in the business are sacrificed for either the customers or the ownership. I don't know, but that's not only bad, but it's also a short-term kind of thing. So it's got to serve the people that work within it, and it's got to serve itself in a healthy way. Like I often say, like one of my primary job is making sure that Medicake does what Medicake's supposed to do and is healthy and serves itself, because and someone might be like, that's really selfish. Like, you put yourself before your clients. Like, if we don't, then we're not healthy and we can't serve anybody.
Right.
On our podcast with Hannah, go back and listen to it. One of the things she said is that she told us some advice. She says, make sure you take care of yourself. And it's this idea that, when on the airplane, right, the oxygen mask drop, you got to take care of yourself, because if you're not healthy, nothing is healthy. Go
ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just...
Okay, I'll go.
That's it.
Sorry. No, I was going to say that's a great, I guess, advice is to take care of yourself. So one of the things she said was find yourself a hobby.
Yeah, I like that.
Because and what did she said? That takes time and could potentially, what did she say?
Like, it's expensive.
No, expensive and could cost you your life. Like, that's dangerous.
Oh, dangerous.
And it takes you out of the office,
because it takes you out of yourself, out of your office, and forces your headspace to focus in on something else besides.
I love that.
That's really valuable.
I need that right now.
On the flip side of all of this, I don't want to leave. I think we got about 10 more minutes on this. I don't want to leave people with the understanding of, business is miserable, it's scary, and there's no upside. I want to flip it over on the other side and say, yes, it's hard work. Yes, some days you eat glass. But if you are the person that says, I cannot not do anything else, this is what I love, and I'm passionate, and I love it, then maybe you should be starting a business. If it scares you and you're like, I don't like doing hard work, and I'd rather do something I really love than doing all this stuff, because for me, I am unemployable from the sense of I can't go to a corporate setting, sit in a desk, push paper all day long, check in at 8 and check out at 5. That's just not how I'm wired. I would get fired in the first week. I have to be doing something creative. I have to be with people. I have to be having some sort of strategy, and I have to be challenged every day. So I think the other side of it is it's a blast. It's a joy. There's so many positive things to it.
I mean, 100%. I think hopefully we weren't given the idea that, I would say, it's going to be hard. It is hard. Everything's hard. Everything's got some hard parts of it, and everything's got some great parts of it, right? Whether you're talking about business ownership or working in a company or getting married, like, they all have positives and negatives, right? And so I think it's important to be aware, not to do something because someone else says you should do it.
Right.
And if you do it because you believe it, because it's your purpose, because it's what you're good at, what you enjoy most of the time, then you should do it.
Yeah. For me, I think some of the joys are just, I feel a little bit like I own a little bit more of my future. Like, I determine if it sinks or floats. And so I like that a lot, even though I don't sometimes do well with the stress. I still like that the flexibility of that too, to kind of determine where I feel I need to go personally and what I want to do. And so for me, it just offers a lot of flexibility. At the same time, it allows me to explore areas of my life where that my creativity, things that really excite me, I get to actually participate in still. Sometimes it's becoming a little less. Sometimes I'm doing things during the day that I just don't like to do, which you have to do in business. But the reality is, overall, I feel a lot of joy for my business. I feel like I'm helping people. I love working with clients. I love seeing us produce things that help our clients grow. I love what our clients are doing, and they're, we work with a lot of like tech companies and new innovation products, and some of those products I'm really excited about as if they're my own. And I think that's what makes me do what I do so well, is that I have such a joy to work and almost feel like an ownership to my clients' products and services, that I'm a huge advocate, and I just love that. So I kind of live vicariously in my own business to other businesses that we serve. And so I feel like I'm part of a health tech company, and I'm part of a medical tech company, and I'm part of a consumer product company, because I literally am part of the team, right? And so I love doing that. That's what brings me joy every day. And I love the flexibility, and just, it's offered me some awesome opportunities I don't know that I would have received. So working for a company.
No, I think you nailed it. You nailed it, Brad. I think those are the things that, if all of us were honest, is the creativity side of it, is taking something, creating something out of nothing for a client that then would benefit from that in great ways. Yeah. And so many of the companies that we work with are benefiting and helping people in great ways. So to be a part of that and to be a catalyst for certain aspects of it, it's very rewarding. It's not just money in the pocket and going on to the next job. It's actually seeing your work influence the world in some way. So I get a ton of joy out of that, and it's a ton of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Good.
So the question is, should this episode be called, Should I Stay or Should I Grow? Grow.
Scale, stay, or stop.
Oh, should I stay or should I grow, or should I eat glass?
Yeah.
I like that. Do that again. That felt good.
Good. Well, as always, appreciate you guys being here. And if you haven't rated or written a review on iTunes, please do that. It really helps us to get it out to more people. It helps with the algorithms, and it helps us to bump up a little bit higher on the charts, hopefully. Also, if you're interested, go to Facebook and look up Agency Exposed Facebook group. And there's a group of us that are starting to begin some conversations, and we want that to grow more.
Give us some suggestions too for upcoming episodes would be great.
Yeah, any feedback was done through that group. So, and we also share kind of a lot more than what we talk about here. So.
Yeah, and we're going to have some more guests coming up. So look forward to that. You guys got big plans for the week and the weekend?
Work. I have to work this weekend a little bit.
There you go.
Spend time with my family.
Oh no, I'm just clocking out.
You are? All right.
Just kidding. No, that doesn't happen.
Tap it.
I'm not an agency owner anymore, guys, so I'm going to have fun.
All right.
Talk to you guys later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.